Good morning, dear students. This is the second part of the lecture under the Unit 4. There's physical educations and sports for children with special need. And in this lecture, we'll be discussing about types of disorder. Under the types of disorder, we have 5 types of disorder. There's ADHD, SPD, the ASD, ODD, and OCD, which is a very important topic for the final examinations. And also, I want you to understand whether you fall under the category of any of these disorder in your life or not. But in the last class also we have discussed about the meaning of disorder, so just let me refresh one more time about the meaning of disorder. Disorder is any ailment or minor illness that disrupts the health of a person or hinder a person's performance and diminishes his or her efficiency. So if any performance of you is being affected, if you're not able to perform effectively, efficiently, then you will come under the category of disorder. At the same time, we also need to understand that disorder grow inside a person. They are small in a being. Let me remind you the behavior that we have, the disorder that we have. It may be very small in the beginning. You may not see the much changes, but may become serious and grow in disability, so it may become permanent also. So any kind of disorder, any kind of problems that is affecting you right now, for example, you are getting angry, emotional problems, and after that you are getting angry very quickly, then after that now you may think that it is very minor problem, it's very normal and casual things. But if you get angry and constantly every time, so then to make a decisions or to continue with a problem, you may have problem in future. So that's why it may become a disability in future. The first disorder we're discussing about is ADHD, and this ADHD means attention deficit hyperactive disorder. By the word attention deficit means you lack in attention. That means you are unable to keep your attention for a long period of time. At the same time, you have hyperactive disorder. That means you are very active all the time. So you are hyperactive. You cannot just sit quietly, and after that you cannot just listen to the explanation or listen to somebody for a long period of time. So these are the problems that you see under the ADHD. So ADHD is a group of behavioral symptoms. So this is this disorder that you see under the behavior of a person. That often includes inattentiveness. That means you're not able to sit in a classroom for a long period of time, or listen to a lecture for a long period of time, or maybe you're very hyperactive. You always want to do something or the others. You want to go there, you want to do this, you want to do multiple activities at a short period of time. Or very impulsive. That means you're thinking about so many things and very quickly read. So these are called ADHD. It is a medical conditions that affects how well can somebody sit still, focus, and pay attention. So these are the conditions under ADHD. It's a medical condition that shows how a person can sit still, follow a type of focus, and pay attention. So these are the 3 things that affects under the ADHD. Now, generally with ADHD, affect children have defense in part of the brain. Now, why does it happen because of ADHD? Because they have defense. Their brain is there's defense in part of the brain. Now, after that, then contact activities and attentions. So that is our brain is always being controlled. Our brain helps us control lots of activities, like even the attention, also even the activities that we're doing. Also, our brain is controlling everything. But since there are differences in brain, because of these two, what happens that the activities and attention also be affected. It means that individuals may have some problem focusing in some activities. That means if you have ADHD, then you may also find that you may have problem in focusing in some activities, or maybe in a lecture, maybe in listening to somebody for a long period of time. So these are the things that you see under ADHD. Now some of the symptoms of the ADHD. So these are pictures that shows that some of the symptoms here like this. So you can see that in this picture, like a person is student is inattentiveness. Means you are attending a class and after listening to a lecture, but after listening to the lecture for this maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, what happens is you tend to concentrate, or you tend to think about something else. So that's what called inattentiveness. And after unorganized, you are very unorganized. Means you are just randomly doing stuff, all things. That's called meaning for organized. Difficulty in listening. So again, I explained about this one. Then at the same time, hyperactive or very impulsive. Means you want to do all these things, and after that, so many things at the same time, and after that you are always rushing to do work, and after make the rush decisions. That means you don't think properly that what is going to happen for the future, but you just randomly make a decision instantly. So these are some of the symptoms of this ADHD. And after that, these are this combined pictures of all this problem they're facing. So these are the images you see here like this. A person with the ADHD may show this kind of behaviors. Maybe the paper is falling down, then after unorganized, maybe rush. So these are our symptoms of ADHD. Now next one, causes of ADHD. Why does it happen? What is the reason behind why do you feel this kind of the ADHD? The first one is the genetic factors. Now if genetic factor means genes that are inherited from their parents, that's called genetic factors. So if your parents or maybe your forefathers have got problems of this ADHD, means they have problems with attentions, seeking and giving attention for a long period of time, they have very hyperactive, then definitely what happens is you also inherit a gene from your parents, so that's why that's called a genetic factor. Now brain injuries, now maybe because of accidents, you are not, maybe because of this, especially because of accidents, your brain is being affected. So what happens is you are not able to concentrate fully, you're not able to use the full potential brain. So in this case, what happens is that you may have problem of ADHD and giving you attention or there's concentrating still for a long period of time. Low birth weight. Okay. Now, it is observed that a child with low birth weight are more likely to develop ADHD. So if a child is also born with a low birth rate, what happens is it also causes ADHD. The lack of discipline in the family. Now this is a very important point here like this. Most of the parents, what they do is that they don't teach the children how to behave inside classrooms, how to talk to the elders. So the generation is changing, and in this generation, what happens is most of the parents are also very busy with this work also like this, but I'm not blaming the parents or all the parents. But you see some of the parents, what happens is that they are very busy in their work, they don't give moral value to their kids, like how to behave, how to respect, and how to be polite. So if you are not able to learn this thing from the parents, then your behavior will also show this kind of lack of this attentions, and after that you are always hyperactive. So this kind of these problems, what happens that inside, especially inside classrooms, you are very hyperactive, and if you're not paying attention, then definitely it's going to create problem for the classroom. So that's why what happens lack of disciplines in a family. Also, there's more like child who becomes very hyperactive and indisciplined. Exposure to toxic substance. Now, smoking, alcohol, and drugs abuse during pregnancies may cause ADHD to the offspring. So, if your parents are maybe exposed to these kind of drugs, maybe there's smoking, maybe alcohol, then what happens is even a child that is offspring may have problem of ADHD. So, this is the causes of ADHD. Next disability or next disorder we'll discuss about is ASD. That is stand for autism spectrum disorder. Now autism, if you are not able to hear problems, then what happens is your outcomes will be totally a mess. If I give you instructions and if you are not able to receive the instructions, what happens is that definitely you are going to do some things which is out of the box. So in this case, what happens, the ADC will also happen the same things. The ASD is a disorder that affects the development of human body. Your body is not developing properly. Now, generally, the young child with ADHD have communications, language skills, and behavior problems. Now, if I tell you, if you're not able to listen to me problem, if I tell you, open the page number 10. So, if you're not able to listen to me properly, then what happens is that your behavior will say something that is called the communications. You are not able to say properly, you are not able to respond me properly, or you're not able to react or act properly. So that's what happens there. Autism spectrum disorder causes a problem to the child it affects the communications, it affects the language, it affects the skills and behavior of the child. Children with ASDs may behave differently or repeat same activity over and over again, like touching same object repeatedly. So they also tend to do things repeating the work for a long period of time. So maybe just repeat the same work again and again. So these are also a problem that you see under that ADHD. ASD. They avoid eye contact. So this kind of person, what happens is that they have kind of very nervous in nature. So what happens is they're not able to contact to the person. They feel difficult in expressing their needs of emotions. So they, at the same time, they also have a problem since they are not very sociable very sociable in nature. So what happens? They feel shy. They don't want to keep eye contact. They don't want to express emotions. At the same time, they are very sensitive to taste, smells, and sound. So they are also very sensitive to these three things. That is, their taste, smell, and sound. Let's see the symptoms of this ASD then. Now in this ASD, what happens is that, since I told you like they are very sensitive in nature and they're also very introverts in nature, so what happens is that they reject cuddles. Cuddle is all about touching somebody and after that having social relations, but since they avoid this kind of there's relations in nature, so that's why they reject these cuddles. That not responding because they are not able to listen to the things that you tell them. So what happens that they are not able to respond properly. They prefer to play alone. They always want to be alone. They have to do one of the things by themselves. Then after the connections, connection problem, if they have some kind of tasks, then what happens is that they're not able to connect things properly, or maybe learning disability, you will tell them some things and after that they are not able to receive the information properly. So what happens is that they may also cause learning disability. Then after the hyperactive, that means they are always hyperactive all the time. Then after the epilepsy means a person who faints almost all the time, that is called epilepsy. So this kind of problems may this kind of person may also show epilepsy problems. And after that, depression, since they're worried about all the time, like why it's happening to me, then after what is my problems, or then after I'm not able to good in nature. So they may think lots of negative things in nature, so that's why they may also cause depression in nature. So this is the symptoms. Now, what is the cause of this ASD then, autism spectrum disorder? Why does it happen? Again, same thing like the genetic factors. Now, if your parents, I guess same thing like if your parents have got this kind of problem, then definitely you're going to inherit. There's a likely chances of inheriting this kind of disability or disorder from the parents. Environmental factor. Okay, there's no solid evidence that is because of the diet or exposure to certain drug or toxins can cause you this kind of autism spectrum disorder. But it also mentioned like this: exposed to high level of pesticides and air pollutions may also be a high risk of having a child with ASD. So if your parents have got high exposure to pesticides and air pollutions, then this kind of these environments can also cause ASD to their offspring or to their children. Then brain developments. Our brains always keep on developing, and after that, if there's any dysfunctions in your body, in your brains, what happens is we're gonna get disorder, and after that, there's this ASD. So what happens there? It has been observed that the brains of children with ASD develop differently, not normally how your brain is supposed to there's functions or how your brain is supposed to grow, but they develop differently. And in such children's brains grow at a very faster rate during the first 3 years of age. So if your brain is growing very fast, what happens is the brain is trying to adjust with the environments, with the learning stuff, with a new environment. So what happens is that there's a great problems for this kind of children. Then such children have more cells than required. So this is also the causes of this ASD. Then after that, even the connections between the cells are not proper. So these are some of the causes of this autism spectrum disorders, why the children are affected with this kind of autism spectrum disorder. Next one, we'll discuss about SPD, that is called sensory processing disorder. Let's discuss about what is sensory. Now, sensory is just like a carrier of information to your body, to your brain. So any kind of information, if I hit my hands, what happens there? Then the sensory organs, sensory nerves, what happens is it transfers the information to your brains, and after the brain responds, which is very important. Like in computer, you type some things, then after what is capitals of Australia, then you press enter, the information is sent, and after that the brain the computer receives the information questions and send back with the answer. So our brain works in that way. Then after the sensories, the organs plays a very important role in receiving and responding to the information. But in this situation, what happens is that SPD is a condition in which the brain has difficulty in receiving and responding to information that comes in through the sense. So the sense organs, what they do is that they need to pass the information to your brain. But if I hit myself, but since I don't feel any pains, and after that nothing is going. If I don't feel pains, what happens then? Nothing is going to my brain. But when I hit myself, it goes in the sense organs pass the information to my brain, and after the brain reply back with a pain. But in this case, what happens there? Since there's a problem in the sensory organs, what happens is receiving and responding information has got a problem in this the SPD. All activities such as readings, books, riding bicycles require accurate processing of sensations. Remember one thing, any activities that you always require accurate processing of sensation. You need to have some kind of sensations accurate. Your sense must work properly to respond to anything. Now, for example, like if you're reading, you're reading some books, and after that, when you read a line, and after you're just wondering what does it mean, that means your sensory organ is not responding properly. Or maybe when you're riding a bicycle, the best example is like when you're riding a bicycle, your sense organs tell you to move right, left, and after adjust the balance instantly and very quickly. But you're riding a bicycle, and after your body is going like this, you're getting out of balance. So your brain is not responding. It means your sensory organ is not working effectively. But when you're going down, your brains will tell you you're going to more onto the left side, so you go to the right side. So what happens? You adjust quickly. So that's how your sensory organ is working. But lack of this sensory processing, what happens there? It creates there's problems in your life. It comes to sort of neurological traffic jams that prevent certain part of our brains from receiving the information required to interpret sensory informations accurately. So it's kind of the traffic jams. Your message is going, okay, message is going, but in your brain it's not processed properly. So that's what happens that you have this kind of problem that is called sensory processing disorder. Now let's see some of the symptoms about the sensory processing disorder. Now, if this child has got sensory processing disorder, now what happens that I'm overly sensitive towards loud sounds. So you may have this kind of sensitive to maybe sometimes what happens, sensory processing disorder may be very high or maybe very low. If it's very high, what happens is some small sound also will pass the information to your brain, and after maybe it feels very loud also. Maybe you will feel very low in sound also. So there is a chance that you may not be able to hear properly, or maybe you may hear the sounds very loudly also. That's called a sensitive to sound. I have trouble focusing concentration. So definitely if the message is not going to your brain and the brain is not responding to the information sent to your brain, so what happens is you may have problem focusing and you may have problem in concentrating. I have a poor life motor skills, same things. Motor skills is about how you move your body, how you adjust your body, how you balance your body is called motor skills. So, for example, you're going to hit a football, and after you don't know what you're supposed to do, how you're going to hit the football, how and I move my legs, or either I hold my hands to catch the ball. So these are the things that is required for any kind of games and sports. But if your motor skills not effective, or when a ball is coming, for example, a ball is coming, then after what are you supposed to do? And ball is coming straight to your face. What happens there? You are supposed to use the motor skills by blocking like this. But what if your brain is not responding? Your ball is coming, then after you have just thinking, what is that? So your brain is not reacting. So in this case, what happens? Your motor skills is very bad. So what happens then? You're not able to do or take part in activities. I have poor motor skills, the same thing like this. Then after that, I chew into everything. Then after it seems to be unaware of the normal touch and pain. So you are unaware of the touch and pain also. Sensory organs will receive this will send in information, and after we will need to react on that. So just like give you one example, like if I hit myself, I need to feel pain. But when I hit myself, if the sensory organ is not working, if the message is being taken up by the from here, it's not responding, then I will feel nothing. So that's what happens that you may not unaware of normal touch and pain in your life. Then after I'm picky of eating, that resist to new foods and textures, and after I have been tickles or cuddles at the same time, same like ADHD. Then after I had having my hair brush, wash, cut. So these are some of these symptoms that you see under a child person suffering with autism. There's a sensory processing disorder. Now let's see what is the causes of ASD. What is the reasons for this kind of children to behave in this manner? The first one again here like this is genetic cause. Now, under the genetic cause, what happens if your parents inherit, that means what you're supposed to have this kind of problem. But at the same time, you also need to understand like this: if your parents have got a problem of autism spectrum disorder, ASD, that is neurological sensory processing disorder. But if your parents also have autism spectrum disorder, that means not able to respond and react, then what happens that you may also face this kind of problems in your life. Low birth weight. Again, I've already explaining about this low birth weight. This kind of causes also low birth weight also causes the sensory processing disorder in your life. Environmental factor. Now, usually children who are adopted often expose SPD due to some restrictions in the early life or poor parental care. Now, autism, sensory processing, you're not reacting. Now, I'll give you one example. For example, like Tarzan. When a Tarzan is in a jungle, he is very active and just imaginations. When a Tarzan is in the jungle, he's very active. He knows what he's supposed to do, how he is supposed to swim. But what if the Tarzan come back to the city? Then the Tarzan will be very confused because he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. Because there's no jungle, there's no animals, and after how he see buildings, and after he see cars, he see shops also, and so he will be confused, or he will not be reacting as per to the situations. But in the jungle, he can react. So just like that, a person who's adopted may have some certain restrictions, means not able to express his opinions, views, and after maybe, or even the thing also. So in this case, what happens that he may lack in sensory processing disorder. Then after the next one is called physical cause. Research studies have indicated that individuals with ASD have abnormal brain activities with exposure to certain stimuli, that is activities. So your brains may not be functioning properly, and because of this one, it may also cause to SPD, that is sensory processing disorder. Next one, I'll discuss about ODD, that is oppositional defiant disorder. Opposition means always opposing. If I tell you something, then after you say no, no, no. That's called oppositional defense disorder. So anybody who always keep on rejecting, or who is not able to, who is not obeying, who is always aggressive, that is called oppositional defense disorder. Now, ODD is a set of groups of behavior disorders called the disruptive behavior disorders. So they are always very disruptive in nature. It is called by this name because the children who have the disorder always tend to disrupt those around them. So you always find this kind of people or this kind of children who will always disturbing around them inside classroom and outside also. They were always disturbing. It is one of the most common mental disorder found in children. So you always find that this kind of problem is very common in children. They exhibit anger, outbursts, and have hard time with controlling anger and aggression. So you also find they are always opposing. They are not willing to accept and they are not willing to agree. So what happens is they always get angry. Why is that? I was saying somebody will say, no, this is your mistake. No, this is not my mistake. So what happens is you will always, the person will try to defend himself, and after the person will get more emotions, more anger. So what happens that this kind of emotions can be seen in this kind of disorder. Such children argue with parents and defy authorities from time to time. So this kind of children, what they do is they always argue with the parents, and after that, at the same time, they also defy authority. Means they don't obey the rules and regulations. Maybe inside the classroom also, you're supposed to be quiet, but you're saying, no, why shall I keep quiet? You will find this kind of attitude like this. You're not supposed to go there. Then after you may also say like this, why should? So these kind of children will always keep on arguing. They don't follow the rules and regulations. So this kind of problems will come under the ODD. Now, symptoms of the ODD. Now, there's under this category, like I say, like this, they are very aggressive in nature and they don't obey. So what happens is that they always include or they show this kind of behavior like regular temper tantrums, or very angry all the time because they're not willing to accept. So when you're not willing to accept your mistake, what happens is you will get very angry. Why everybody is calling me? Why everybody is blaming me? So all's fine like that. But the persons who accept his mistake and agree to what the people are saying, then what happens is they will always be humble and kind. But this kind of people, they're not willing to accept anything from outside. So what happens is they are very aggressive and very angry in nature. Then after excessive arguments with adults. Now, why there's an argument? Because they're not willing to accept your mistake, or you're not willing to admit that you have done something wrong. But when adults tell you that, why have you done, this is wrong, this is also this, then after that you are saying that, no, this is not my fault, this is why you're blaming me also. So in this case, what happens that you always have arguments, excessive arguments with the adults, or maybe with your parents, or maybe with the authorities. Then after uncooperative, deliberately annoying actions, so they will never be cooperative. If you tell them, shall we go for a picnic? They will say, no, I'm not interested in that. Shall we play football? They will say, no, I'm not interested in that. So they will never be cooperative with you. Whatever the good idea, maybe they always have bad, they have always excuses, and after they always say this, that, all things, and after that, annoy actions. They are always deliberately, means intentionally, they will annoy somebody, then after disturb somebody, then after always affect the behavior of somebody. So this is the symptoms of ODD. Now, what is the causes of ODD? Now, first, the biological or genetic factor. Now, children with more chances of developing ODD if they have parents with ADHD or ODD. That is, if they have the history of this attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, that means they are not. So, if your parents have got these two problems, then definitely what happens is that you are likely to have this kind of problems in your life. Now, physical factor, the presence of ODDs have been linked to the existence of abnormal amount of some REM chemical, that is neurotransmitter. So if this neurotransmitter is present in the brain, and if the amount of the neurotransmitter is shortage in the brain, so what happens is that you may exhibit this kind of behavior. So that's what happens, amount of some brain chemicals. If there's abnormal, then this is too much or too less, also will give you a problem that's called this oppositional defense disorder. Now, physiological factor. Children may develop ODD if they do not have good relations with the parents. Let me just repeat again. Good relations with the parents and have neglectful parents or have inability to develop social relations. Now, if you are not having a good relation with the parents. Now, what is the why we talk about this? The first education or the first kind of this information that you get is from your home. Your parents always give the first-hand information. They always teach you the moral value, how to behave inside the classroom. But if your parents and you doesn't have a good relations, they will not be able to understand the moral values, good ethics, good behaviors. So when you don't have this kind of good relations, then what happens? You will not be able to listen to anybody in your life. So that's what happens there. Or maybe when your parents is very neglectful, or when you don't have good relations, you're always arguing with your parents. Your parents are always arguing with you, always blaming you, will also cause you a problem of anger, and after that you are not able to have this kind of emotions continue in life. Social factor. Now, ODDs may be due to the inconsistent disciplines, or divorce, poverty, chaotic movements in families, and exposure to violence. Now, not inconsistent disciplines. Inconsistent disciplines means disciplines are supposed to be like good behavior they are supposed to show towards the elders, towards the friends. But if you maybe for one day you will behave good behavior, but tomorrow again you come back to natural. So when you have inconsistent discipline in life, will always lead to this or there's ODDs, and at the same with divorce. If not you, but if your parents has got a divorce, then what happens that your parents may have separated, and after that your parents will not have time for you. They will be problem. They have so many problems in life. At the same time, what happens that you may not have good relations with them. So when you don't have good relations, your parents will not be able to teach you what to do, what not to do. Then after, good ethic values also. So divorce also are factors where children develop this ODD. At the same time, poverty, chaotic environment. So if you are not able to eat properly, if you are not able to have a good living lifestyle, every time you're worried about so many stuff, then after that you're about what to get, when to get. So always worried about, because the poverty will also lead to these kind of problems. And I think environmental factor, like I say, environmental factors, if your friends, if your neighbors, if you have environments where everybody's arguing all the time, so what happens, that will also lead this kind of mentality in you, that you will only learn negative things from them. So even if this home also, if you have a family members who are always arguing, you have a sister or a brother who is always arguing with you, then what happens, that you may also develop this kind of disorder in you. Obsessive compulsive disorder, next one. So what is obsessive? Obsessive means thinking about unwanted thoughts. Everybody, you have to understand that we go through this kind of problem, this obsessive compulsive disorder. We have this kind of problems. Now, why do you have this kind of problems? Because we have unwanted thoughts. As a student, you are thinking about, will I get first divisions or not? Will I get top or not? I mean, after appearing in examinations, if you appear at class examinations, or if you appear at class of examinations, then after appearing in examinations, you can do nothing. But most of the students, what happens is you keep on worrying. Will I get first divisions? Will I get a top? Will I get distinctions? When you're worried about too much things that you cannot change, what happens that you cause this kind of problem. It's called obsessive compulsive disorder. Or maybe you're worried about what will happen in future. Maybe after 10 years, what will happen? After 5 years, after 1 year, what will happen? You keep on thinking about the future. You cannot change anything about the future. When you cannot change anything about the future and you keep on worrying about that, and what happens that you may have this kind of unwanted thought, which will lead to the obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, it is a mental problems, health condition, disorder that affect people of all age and walk of life, all ages and walk of life. So it can happen to you, and it can happen to me. It can happen to your parents. It can happen to anybody. Okay. So OCD is a type of mental disorder that causes repeated unwanted thoughts. Everybody's maybe sometime or the other, what happens, you have unwanted thought. But when you have unwanted thought, forget about it. Then after you consider it about, that's not a problem. But repeated, you keep on thinking about the unwanted thoughts. When you have repeating, see, one thing is that what you think, your body will react. Okay, so if you have only unwanted thoughts, your body will try to react according to that. So that's what happens, that you must avoid this kind of this unwanted thoughts in order to avoid this kind of disorder. Persons suffering from OCDs might understand that their obsessions are unreasonable, but trying to stop or ignore them cause anxiety or stress. Sometimes what happens is when you have too much of unwanted thoughts, what happens is it's unreasonable. You gotta change that. But what happens that if you want trying to stop or ignore that, when you try to control or stop them, what happens is sometimes it also lead to two problems. It's called anxiety and stress. You may be just worried about too much, and it may cause you anxiety and stress, which is very harmful for our life or for our body. Next one, let's see what is the causes of obsessive compulsive. What is it happens? The exact cause of OCD is still unknown, but researchers strongly suggest that there may be problems with the way one part of the brain sends information to others. So you have parts of brains, and your part of brains need to cooperate with one another. simultaneously respond to each other effectively. But when there's reactions, when your brain signals is not being there's react properly or respond properly, then what happens is that it may lead to kind of problem that is obsessive compulsive disorder. Also, insufficiency of serotonin. Now this is a part. This is this chemical that contain in your brains. Now this chemicals, what they do is serotonin is chemicals in the brain that send message from one part of the brain. But if there's insufficiency of serotonin, because obviously if there's insufficient serotonin means they need to send messages and information to the brain. But if there's shortage of this kind of chemicals in you, then what happens is your brain is not receiving and responding information, so that may also cause you obsessive compulsive disorder. Stress and anxiety do not cause OCD, but they may worsen the symptoms of OCD. Okay, so we have to understand that stress, everybody stressed out about the examinations, about the life also nowadays, and anxiety also same nowadays. But you have to understand that it doesn't cause you OCD, there's an obsessive compulsive disorder, but it may worsen the case. Okay. So this is the end of part 2 of the lecture. I just want to understand that this kind of disorder everybody or all the children may not have this kind of disorder in you, but you may have small amount of any part of disorder in you. But the thing is that, like this, it may be very common in your life, but the thing is that, and the important thing is that we must always rectify our problems or disorder and try to change it so that it may not become permanent in your life. So I hope that through these lectures you understand about type of disorder in your life, in my life. At the same time, we also try to make changes through this lecture. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.